HOA Karens smashed my dad's cane, was fined $30,000 in court. The courtroom buzzed with a restless hum, like a hive of bees waiting for the queen to strike. Dust motes danced in the sunlight slicing through the tall windows, illuminating the tense faces packed into the small-town chamber. At the plaintiff's table sat Daniel, a wiry 28-year-old lawyer with dark circles under his eyes, his knuckles white around a stack of papers. Beside him, his father, Mr. Harold Grayson, 72, hunched in his chair, his weathered hands folded tightly. Harold's eyes, usually warm with stories of his days as a carpenter, were now clouded with hurt. Across the room, Karen Mitchell, the HOA president, sat with her arms crossed, her lips curled into a defiant smirk. In her lap, the splintered remains of Harold's hand-carved cane lay like a trophy of her rage. It all began 3 months ago in the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where the Grayson family had lived for decades. Harold, a widower, cherished his modest home, its garden a patchwork of roses and memories of his late wife. The cane, carved from oak with a handle shaped like a dove, was his companion after a hip surgery left him unsteady. He'd walk the neighborhood waving to kids, sharing stories. But Karen, the self-appointed guardian of Willow Creek's HOA, saw Harold's overgrown roses as a blight on her perfect community. "Trim them or pay," she'd barked, her voice sharp as a lawnmower blade. Harold, stubborn but kind, refused, saying the roses were his wife's legacy. The feud escalated. Karen sent violation notices, then fines, then threats. Daniel, fresh out of law school and back in town to care for his dad, tried to mediate. But Karen wasn't one for compromise. One sweltering afternoon, as Harold watered his roses, Karen stormed over, her face red with fury. "You're ruining this neighborhood," she screamed, snatching the cane from Harold's hand. In a flash, she smashed it against the fence, splintering the dove into shards. Harold stumbled, clutching his chest, and collapsed. Neighbors gasped from their porches. Daniel, arriving just in time, caught his father's frail frame, his heart pounding with rage and fear. The courtroom now held the weight of that moment. Daniel stood, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "This wasn't just a cane," he said, holding up the broken pieces. "It was my father's dignity, his memories, his strength." The jury leaned forward, their faces a mix of sympathy and shock. Karen's lawyer, a slick man in a pinstripe suit, argued she acted in self-defense, claiming Harold had threatened her with the cane. The lie stung like a slap. Daniel's hands shook as he presented photos of his father's bruised arm and medical records from the heart scare that followed. Then came the twist no one expected. Mrs. Ellis, a shy widow who lived across from Harold, took the stand. Known for her quiet demeanor, she'd never spoken at an HOA meeting. But today, her voice trembled with resolve. "I saw it all," she said, her eyes locking on Karen. She wasn't threatened. She laughed as she broke it. A gasp rippled through the room. Mrs. Ellis pulled out her phone, revealing a shaky video she'd recorded from her window. The footage showed Karen's cruel smirk, the cane shattering, and Harold's helpless fall. The jury's faces hardened. Karen's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of panic. The trial stretched on, each testimony peeling back layers of Willow Creek's facade. Neighbors admitted Karen's HOA reign had bullied them into silence fines for unapproved mailboxes, threats over unmowed lawns. Harold, once the neighborhood's heart, became a symbol of resistance. Daniel's closing argument was a plea for justice, not just for his father but for every person crushed by petty power. "She stole more than a cane," he said, voice breaking. "She stole his sense of home." The judge, a stern woman with gray streaks in her hair, delivered the verdict. "Karen Mitchell, you were fined $30,000 for property damage and emotional distress." The gavel struck like thunder. Harold exhaled, tears welling. Daniel gripped his shoulder, but the victory felt hollow. The fine was steep, but Harold's heart scare had left him weaker, his spirit dimmed. Karen, unrepentant, muttered about appealing as she stormed out, the broken cane still in her possession like a badge of defiance. Back home, Daniel helped Harold into his garden. The roses, still untrimmed, bloomed defiantly. Harold touched a petal, his voice soft. "She broke my cane, but not me." Daniel nodded, but his chest ached. The neighborhood felt fractured, trust eroded by one woman's cruelty. Mrs. Ellis stopped by, bringing cookies and a quiet apology for staying silent so long. Her courage in court had shifted the tide, a reminder that even the quietest voices could spark change. The story of Willow Creek spread, whispered in coffee shops and posted on community boards. Some saw Karen's fine as justice. Others thought it too lenient. Harold's roses became a local legend, a symbol of standing firm against tyranny. But for Daniel, the cost was personal. His father's laughter was rarer now, his steps slower. The cane, a piece of his parents' love, was gone forever. As the sun set over Willow Creek, Daniel sat by his father, the broken cane's pieces on the table. They didn't speak, but the silence held their bond. The neighborhood would heal, but the scars would linger. Justice had spoken, but the heart still grieved. What do you think? Did the court's ruling deliver true justice? Or does petty power like Karen's expose deeper cracks in our communities? Share your thoughts.